Welcome to the live stream of consciousness. The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question, what is consciousness? Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness. Hello to my fellow aspects of Source. I want to welcome you and I want to recognize you in this space that I call the live stream of consciousness. What the heck is that? It's where you're at and where I'm at, and it's the moment of now. It's a broadcast where I get to have amazing conversations with my guests about just about anything. I love to talk about spirituality. Like you heard Jesse Blaze say in the intro, we ask the question, the fundamental question, every episode. So you'll hear me ask that question tonight. And I'm excited. I have a guest on who I met at the last Empowered Expo. I told you guys about the speech that I did about broadcasting and creating your own community. And I met this lady at this event, and it was just a very amazing experience. I love authenticity. We talk about that here all the time. And I love energy. We talk about that all the time. So when you have an energy exchange with somebody that you're kind of on a similar vibration with, it feels amazing. Because that's what we're here for. That's what we're all trying to do. So I didn't turn on my comments yet here. Let me see who's here. Oh, Helen Wagner is here. What is happening, Helen? Good to see you. And I see the Quiet Healer. What's up? Good to see you always. I wonder where Ninja Kitty is. I don't see Ninja Kitty out there. I think I'm broadcasting to all the platforms. And Tim and some of the regulars, Grace Grella. I hope you guys show up, but I'm here. I'm excited. And again, I'm excited about my guest. So my next guest is qualified and has studied Dolores Cannon's QHHT method, which is quantum healing hypnosis, quantum hypnosis healing. She'll tell us, but it's Dolores Cannon is somebody who I love to listen to. I know some of my audience loves to listen to Dolores. We love people who share incredible wisdom that comes from Source, and that when we hear it, we know it comes from Source. And that's what I'm here for. That's what the live stream's here for. So looking at the clock, it's about 9:03, which is always when I realize I've babbled on way too long on my introduction, and I should already introduce my guest. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to let her tell you about everything. And welcome to the live stream of consciousness, Jessica Potak. What's happening, Jessica?
Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you so much for being here. I was so excited when we met. I knew I was going to have you on the show, and here you are. So thanks for coming.
I sort of had that feeling as soon as you mentioned it. I was like, we're gonna work together. We're gonna have.
I love that. That's what I was saying about the energy exchange. That event was great. Those Empowered Path expos and mingle nights are really something amazing. They really bring a great quality of person. And you actually said you did an expo the following week or two later and had a great time.
Oh yeah, it was incredible. Because as you go through the community, you meet friends, and then so you go there, and even if you're not meeting other people, even if the show is a complete and utter bust, you're still hanging out with your friends at that point. So,
Totally.
It's always positivity. There's always that positive side point in there too. So we always have
totally. And you inevitably walk away with some new friends, right?
Yeah.
Because of that like-minded attraction to that kind of an event.
Right.
That's awesome.
And I found a client that needed help at that point, and I booked her for just a week later, and we had an incredible session after that. So
that's awesome.
And a best friend too. I met a new incredible friend.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. We were talking about that earlier this week, you and I, when we were discussing the show, about just kind of, you're always in the right place. There's always a reason that you're where you're at, and you always kind of sometimes you figure it out. Sometimes it's a clear sign and you're like, I was meant to be there. That was meant to happen.
Well, I mean, I live in that, because if you understand the universe and understand the inner workings of everything, you understand that this is just a false reality. It's a projection of consciousness. And the ones that are creating it are higher minds, the angels, all of our guides, all the ones that are putting this together. It's like artwork. It's absolutely beautiful. They call it artwork too. I always call life a symphony of serendipity, because it is. And it's
Like
symphony. But some people, maybe some of the instruments are not quite tuned so right. And then that's how we just need to tune the music a little bit better. But you're always getting exactly what you need.
Yeah, totally. No, and that's all right. If they're not quite in tune or whatever. I mean, that's part of the symphony, right? It's always getting better and finding the tune that it needs to find.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Over time too, because what's perfect, because every moment is perfect, and that symphony is perfect in every single moment, but it's just tuning it to your liking as you move on, as your taste acquires a little bit better,
Right.
and more as you higher yourself in frequency.
Right. Also, as you understand your own role in that whole process, I think it becomes a little bit easier to navigate.
Oh yeah, it's all wrapped up in that too.
Yeah, totally. Well, okay, so I'm excited to talk to you, but I do have to ask you that question that we ask every episode here on the live stream of consciousness, and that is, what is consciousness? What exactly are we talking about?
Well, consciousness is understanding. Consciousness is exploration. Consciousness is, we are all a part of God. We are part of the one, part of the all, and the all is part of us. And we are a little piece of source, understanding itself in new perspectives. We gave ourselves individuality and separateness to be able to be blocked off from the all, to understand lives, understand ourselves, understand different perspectives. Because if you're part of the all and you understand everything, then you're not going to have a new perspective. But by individualizing us, by putting the shields and the blinders on, and eventually giving us the opportunity to find out who we are through our experiences, that's going to create new, different experiences and different tastes. And it's really just, consciousness is source understanding itself in different perspectives. Now, everything has consciousness. Every little thing, our webcam has consciousness, every blade of grass, every piece of dust, and even ourselves in our body. It's very interesting because consciousness works on a micro and a macro level. So with consciousness, you can have the entire universe, and then in the universe, then you have different stars, and in those stars you have different planets orbiting, and it keeps on going smaller and smaller. And everything is worked into individual groupings and systems, just as in our body. And by the way, each one of those groupings and systems do have consciousness. All the planets do, the stars, the clusters, the energy around those certain clusters of energy. It goes from small to big. And even though there are individual components in there which have their own consciousness, they're also part of that mass consciousness. Just like in our own body, like all of our cells have consciousness too. So that's why, when you can speak to your body. I talk to my body all the time, and I give it lots of love and nourishment, because you are your body's God. And so you have a heart, and you could speak to your heart directly, because your heart has billions of cells in that. And in the billions of cells, then there are even smaller components, and each one of those components has consciousness too. So you're speaking to an entire universe, and it just continues to go down in these infinite type of smallest consciousness that we can never understand. But it's all things are infinite, and it's show the grace, the beauty, and the vastness of what consciousness, the universe, and all of existence really is.
Totally. That awesome answer. Yay. Yeah, I mean, consciousness is everything, basically, is what you just said. And I feel like you brought up something interesting about the comparison of consciousness and every cell in our body having consciousness, and it made me wonder. I love those kinds of things because they make me think, right? So it makes me wonder, like, as I am a part of consciousness, right, but I'm also an individual and I'm separate, do those cells also experience their existence that way? So they're able to look at other cells and see them as other perspectives or other people, the way we would look at other people, and existing almost like in a I love looking at the universe as a fractal, right? So everything's a fractal and it keeps infinitely getting smaller. So that's what I'm imagining when you, when you say
Oh
that.
yeah. But yes, it does work like that, and they do communicate with each other. But wait, it gets even crazier too, because these are all things that I've been able to discover through traveling through time and talking with the higher minds through QHHT, and being able to use it as a tool of exploration to be able to understand these things. Now, this one's going to be a trip. So understand that each cell, there's infinite timelines. And so each cell that you have, there are copies of them too, because there's infinite versions of you and infinite versions of me now. But our cells not only are aware of us in this timeline, but they're connected to all the other timelines. And they have actually better understanding of that than we do too. So they have an understanding of all they would ever be in every timeline, in infinite. And our cells sort of pulse, and we have a specific pulse within this time frame that we can only see, but that pulses out to infinite, to all the other timelines that these cells exist in, which is
right. No, I love that, and these kinds of conversations, because it's like the idea of trying to understand, like you just said, a pulse. Our cells pulse, right, at a certain rate. That's frequency, and the frequency that we're all tuned to that's where that frequency becomes 3D, becomes solid. And then the other versions of the cell, the alternate versions, are pulsing at just such a slightly different rhythm or pulse or frequency that they don't become physical to us. We don't even sense them.
Well, they're physical. They're just in another timeline.
Right. They're physical to themselves, right? To their own experience.
Right.
They're physical, but to us, we don't. I love that. I
yeah, exactly. You could start to wrap your brain around that too. And it's pretty insane, because time doesn't actually exist. Time exists in a singularity, and all time and all things that have ever existed and ever will exist in one space or time, in infinite. Now, our brains can't actually comprehend that. We can get the overall concept of it, but we can't actually picture anything infinite. Our brains are just not wired to do that. But if you start to get the scale of that, it's absolutely incredible.
Totally. And I love even that. And I guess I'm feeling like there's so many ways this conversation could go, right? Because just the idea of saying, well, time doesn't exist, right? And I agree. I happen to agree. But like you said, just trying to wrap your head around that in the traditional thinking that we've been taught, is tough. But for me, a lot of times when I say things like that I can't necessarily articulate, it's just a knowing, it's just a feeling. It's just like, okay, that makes sense to me, and I do understand it on some level. But then it's like trying to put it on paper, that's not my job. Somebody else.
But the whole thing is that we're not meant to know everything. So there's the universe is so infinite, and there's so much information that we can't possibly comprehend it all.
Right.
Like, there's just such a vastness of information that this conscious mind is just, it's not designed for it, with good reason, and that's understanding. So we actually have to be okay with our spirituality to get to a point where, like, okay, we're always looking for answers, right? We're trying to sharpen ourselves and find out the best versions of us. There's ends. There's ends of our knowledge, which makes it very hard to approach, to go past. And they're just things that we can't comprehend, and we just have to be okay with not being able to understand everything.
Right. And you know what? That understanding that concept was very helpful to me. Like growing up, I had trouble with certain words, right? Like the word God or the word faith. I had trouble because there was such a bias and such a perception about it related to organized religion, related to the personification of the concept of God, right? When my idea of God was not a person. And so for me, I had to really kind of go through some things to be okay with that, right? So for a long time, I would say universe, I would say the universe, or I would say the infinite, or things like that. And then I realized that what you just said, like, we all kind of need to find the thing that we believe in, that faith that I was talking about, that helps us get through this specific moment, this specific existence. And I think that's beautiful. And I'm so happy that I have this outlet of this show to talk to people, so many different people like you, and just kind of, that's everything we just talked about, right? So you have a perspective, I have a perspective, and here's a platform where we can share the perspective without fighting with each other and calling each other names, and loving each other, because that's the intention we set out with.
You're not bringing low vibrational people onto the show. You're attracting people who have done a lot of self-work, and you're only getting those angry type of responses of people who get triggered because they haven't done the work. Because what's very interesting is that no emotions exist in a vacuum. So this is a very important concept that I teach to all my students. So a wonderful example is that you're wearing a red shirt, and somebody like walks up to you and they stare at you. I hate your blue shirt. You're like, but it doesn't comprehend, because there is nothing linking that emotion to that behavior that they just, that those words that they just told you. Right. So this happens in everyday life or any situation that you have, that for you to be triggered from any situation, any person, it just means that you're out of balance somewhere. It's the universe giving you a cue. It's saying, by the way, here's an opportunity to understand something about yourself, something you're out of balance with who you really are. So if you look into that, then there's going to be an answer there. And then you can start to troubleshoot yourself. But yeah, so like, but I can't imagine you having anybody like that on this show, because it's a show of love.
Well, you know what? Interestingly enough, there was a moment in the show, you know, I like to find common ground, right, with whoever it is that I'm talking to, whatever modality, you know, even if it's something I've never heard of or don't believe in. And I actually had Flat Earth Dave on my show. And he is like, you know, he's an advocate for flat Earth. He's like one of these well-known people. And I had such an amazing conversation with him. And like, I asked him about his spirituality, like, what does he believe? And he said he believes in the soul, that this is not an eternal, this is just a temporary aspect of something more eternal.
Yeah.
And things like that. And it was just so great. And of course he was pushing his beliefs, but we weren't fighting at all. It was just so great to have that opportunity. I think that's kind of part of what I'm put here for, to kind of, you know, the people who get triggered and angry, it's almost like, you know, I want to be like, you know, why, like, have a conversation with them and try to get them past that anger, you know, and become friends with them despite their own resistance to it.
Absolutely. You can find common ground in your differences too.
Exactly.
With that.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's what I did, because the common ground I found with him was that I believe that we don't really know what reality is, right? And that's kind of basically what, like, we've been told the world is round and the world is really flat. That's what he's saying. But like, I agree with the concept that we've been told things, but they're not really that way.
Yeah, but you know, what's interesting is, as I understand things, that we only create a certain amount of reality around us. We sort of have a bubble. And so like, even if there weren't other people and other consciousnesses there to hold up the bubble, then it would just be us creating. There's a lot of co-creation involved. So like, I mean, yes, is the globe round? Yes, but at the same time, it's not even created unless you have other things to help lifted up at the same time, which is also another mind bending concept.
Totally. Totally. So there's so much I want to talk to you about, right?
I
Because yeah, the spiritual stuff is I love talking about it all the time. Your transformational journey, I want to talk about that as well. But before we do that, there's another question I like to ask, and that is if you have a moment that you remember or a story that you want to share where you knew everything that you thought you knew wasn't right, and that there was more to existence than just kind of what you've been presented in the mainstream, in society.
um that was a slow ramp up, but there was a very like large demarcation line of when like stuff really started to get a little bit crazy.
Okay.
And it was I was working on my so right I have in my house I host all my sessions, and so I was actually creating the studio where I do all the hypnosis sessions, and I was like doing the electric up there. And so whatever, I'm having fun, I'm having a good time, and I look at my iPhone, and I looked at Instagram, and it was like there was like an auspicious number. It was like 55555 on my like followers. I was like, that's really interesting. And so I'm sort of chugging away, I'm playing some good music and I'm chilling, and all of a sudden I start getting like loud ringing in my ears. And I was like, something's really weird. It was like loud. And if anybody knows, ringing in your ears is usually an upgrade, or download from the universe, or it is your frequency raising very quickly.
Okay.
It was definitely both of those things. And I started to get this like massive ringing, like huge. And then all of a sudden, like I started to, like my third eye started to pulse. And I got the message that you are an angel sent from God to help.
Mhm.
And I'm like, whoa. And that message wouldn't stop. That message wouldn't stop for about 4 hours.
Wow.
And I was like, it's like, wow, I'm schizophrenic. Oh, great. But like, it was literally so powerful, and they were jamming me full of so much information that I was just like, my mind was starting to fry. It was setting me up for everything that was going to happen in my life to get to this very moment right now.
Mhm.
And it kept on repeating. I had to go and lay on my hands in the backyard to try and dismiss the energy. It took
Wow.
about after that to calm down from it. It took hours and hours for the message to stop.
Wow.
And at that point where I started to like dig into my spiritual like awakening, I was like, there's something huge here. And that's really kickstarted my journey very quickly. And then I was like, everything, you think reality is normal, and you think you're just living this normal life, and quote, quote, quote. But then like, apparently there's so much more. And it was like just showing me that I had an incredible path, which is just, lined up to and given to me. And it's what I'm living in this very moment.
So when was this experience?
This was about 4 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
It was little before my bottom surgery.
Okay. So that's kind of interesting. That's what I was wondering, if this happened pre or post. But I know from our conversations you said that the whole experience of your transformation was what opened up all of the spiritual channels to you in like a big way.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So there was no signs before that, do you think, at all? Or
When I was younger, I had a very big draw to shamanism and to nature. When I was a child, I used to pretend like I was like a magician, and I made like a society in the woods with my friends, and I built a hut, and we went to like one of the local parks, Christopher Morley. We dug into the woods, and I created like a hut, and I had all
Cool.
these with medicines and like herbs and
Yeah.
everything.
So there was kind of some connection to something.
Oh yeah, I mean, I astral projected at one point when I was freaking out about a test, and just like I always had a knowing. I used to work, and I used to like work with the clouds, and I started like I like had a connection with nature, and I always tried to like move the clouds and adjust weather. Now I actually know how to do that, but at that point, like I was just sort of doing it on my own. Uh,
Sure.
I was working to influence people and put ideas on in like to offer them ideas, which are some shamanic, some pretty cool shamanic techniques to offer people information. So it was like little things there, but it didn't come apparent to me until later. I also had a conspiracy theory. I was into aliens and extraterrestrial, and ghosts
Right.
and all stuff, and like I started gathering information about man and understand and how they were able to people were able to build the pyramids and use energy, and I was into all this stuff. There was always the pieces there.
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe we got some above top secret forum people if they're listening. Like
Yeah.
I was ATS back in the day. uh,
Nice.
yeah, so like that was all signs of it earlier on.
But did you know that there was something to it, or did you feel like it was just entertainment and science fiction, or did you feel like a deeper connection to it?
Oh no, I knew there was a deeper connection to
Yeah.
everything. I knew that there was a unified connection with all things. I've always
Okay.
been scouring to try and find more information. And all
Mhm.
the things that I understood when I started digging into these things at 13 years old, that like I never stopped,
Mhm.
that it just continued to grow more and more and more. And
Mhm.
all of my suspicions, now I've been able to confirm pretty much all of them. And way beyond that, much
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
more imagine.
I can imagine. Okay, so I totally want to talk about what you do with your QHHT techniques and the shamanic stuff, but I want to get there first, right?
Okay.
So I just kind of want to go back to that because you mentioned your bottom surgery. So
Yeah,
you were born a man,
yeah.
and
Well, I was
I
born in the body of a man.
and
I
you okay. It's a good way to
my
say it.
soul actually is a feminine soul, a feminine spirit. As I've understood through QHHT,
Mhm.
that our soul has a polarity coming in,
Mhm.
and this happens a lot of times with trans people. Is that because that our soul is creating the body to come in, that or to project really,
Mhm.
that there is a dysphoria
Mhm.
when a soul knows that it's going to be that it's a feminine soul, but it's going into a male body because we need to,
Mhm.
because we chose that.
I was
Because
going to say as a choice, right? Okay.
yeah, everything is a choice,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that was important. And we often there's dysphoria when you come into the soul in there. So yes, but I was born in a male's body
Right. Right. And also lived as a male
for
for
30.
37 years, right? So that's what I love about your story is because when I met you, I had no idea about the previous 37 years. I met you as Jessica, as a female, and I had no ideas, no thoughts in my head, oh, this person was born in a male body, right? Because there was such an authentic vibe to you, a very natural femininity. You're an athletic female, you know what I mean? You're attractive, and I think it was a surprise, right? I was like, oh wow. And I loved those moments because for me at least, I love those moments. I mean, I know for other people it's different, but I love those moments because it allows me to um well, not test, that's not the right word, but allows me to experience my own judgment or lack of it, right?
Ooh,
And I'm going to say lack of it because it's like the furthest thing from my mind, like any sort of judgment, like, oh, wait a second, you know what I mean? There's no throwback in a negative way. It's almost like more like, ooh, tell me more, you know what I mean? I'm more interested in the psychology of it all, right? And you I feel like you've achieved something incredible here. I feel like when I looked at some of your history and I saw the before and after, who you were before and who you are now, it's not it's like you're a different person. It's like a literal shedding of the snake skin, you know what I mean? And I don't mean it in a bit like, oh, that was an evil thing, but it was like, it was just a whole different person.
Oh yeah, and I
Mhm.
was too. And
Yeah.
once I started on, so uh, I okay, so quickly, the story of my transition is
Tell us.
I
Yeah.
woman much earlier. I played with girls' toys. I had a feminine aspect of feminine energy. I knew that I was different, right? I didn't play along with the normal boys.
Mhm.
I definitely got along better with feminine friends. I had a hard time meeting people, just, also because of my vibration too. Like, and I eventually did find a wonderful friend group, but still, when I was younger, I was very displaced and
Mhm.
I knew something off. And by like age 11, like I really sort of knew who I was and I started experimenting. I was like dressing women's clothes. Like I
Mhm.
found like started clothing that my mom threw away and I had
Mhm.
saved it because I did garbage. And so like I put together like little outfits and everything. And so it was sort of natural to me, right? And there was a certain point of time where I was able to come home from school, and since everybody's working, I could just like dress up in some women's clothes, and it was like just me, right?
Mhm.
And then my neighbors caught me, and like through one of the windows, and then told my dad, and
Oh, wow.
love him, incredible man, but he was not very happy, and he shut the idea down like very quickly, like we will never do this again. It was
Mhm.
it was a terrifying conversation. I stuffed it all into the box, right?
Wow.
Especially because you understand the gender norms. Like we grow up and we understand the society and we understand, what how everybody falls into place. And when you're
Right.
not,
Right.
and there's no LGBT influence, you don't see people like that. The
Right.
only people it was a joke. It
Right.
was like, some like it hot, or you're the joke on Ace Ventura, right? Like
Right.
it was the joke in a movie.
Right.
So there was a lot of discrimination at that point, and so like I remember even like after that point stuffing it away, and I was thinking like in school when I was in seventh grade, I'm like, all right, well, after I'm in my 20s, then I'm out of school and I won't have like the criticism of everybody else and I can transition. And that
Mhm.
was before you knew of like hormone transmission,
Right.
transition or anything like that. It was just, living as your authentic self.
Right.
Uh, so I sort of just kept it stuffed down for a long time.
Wow.
And I ended up, just doing my own thing and trying to like play that part. I tried to play the part as a masculine role.
Right.
You tried to just do everything. I did find a
Sure.
wonderful friend, and we had a good time, and like it made me feel, that community. And when you have a wonderful community of people that support you and that you love and you enjoy being around, like a lot of things that maybe are not right inside of you, it's a little bit easier to manage, right? Because you
Right.
have support. So that was sort of my situation. And then like it wasn't until like I was about 25 and like I had a girlfriend at that point, which was very hard for me. It took a lot of training to understand how to be the masculine and
Mhm.
understanding masculine energy and all this other stuff to
So
actually work.
let me stop you there, not to interrupt you, but I'm
Oh,
curious because I can imagine, as an 11-year-old or whatever, however old you were when your father told you that, right? We will not
yeah,
do this. Like, this is not how we behave, right?
right.
And you, I'm imagining that, like you said, you knew what the norms were, right? So did you feel like something was wrong with you because I feel like you were always comfortable with the idea that there was something different, right? But there must
Well,
have been a part of you that was like, "Ooh, I'm doing the wrong thing."
oh yeah. Oh, completely.
Yeah.
There's realization of yourself, and yeah, of course you don't feel right, and you already don't feel right, and then so you even feel more splintered because then it's like, oh, then like I can't be who I really need to be and who I really am, and so then it's like, all right, well, let's just build this false front, and
Mhm.
you do the best you can with what you got.
Right.
um no, that's hard.
So so now back to where you were at. So you weren't really attracted to women, but you had a girlfriend, or were you attracted to your
Oh,
girlfriend as a person?
like I wasn't really into men romantically. Secretly, sexually,
Mhm.
I was, but like romantically, like I couldn't wrap my head around that because like it, like I like in secret, like I talked to like gay guys, but like the energy wasn't right because
Right.
I was a woman, right? At that
Right.
point, I was a man, and the energy between the man and man is a very different type of an energy too.
Right.
Um, wasn't in it didn't jive with who I was. And so then I needed to, it wasn't until after transition like that I was able to do that. But I was with, I was with a woman, and so she got pregnant, and then, and she didn't know. She didn't know she was pregnant for like 6 months. And then
Wow.
sudden, she was getting big, and then we're like, "Are you sure you're not pregnant?" I asked her a million times, and then she got a test, and she was 6 months, and then it's like,
Wow.
3 months to get your stuff together, and you're having a child, and so
Wow.
it was a big wake up call. I was in a band. I was playing rock and roll. I was like,
I saw some of your pictures when I was researching you playing the guitar and stuff. Awesome. So you were playing in a band as a guy.
yeah, I played bass. Like, I had some friends, and we were creating music, we were recording, I was out, we were drinking, there was
That's
not a,
awesome. I play bass as well. I love it. It's
oh no,
awesome. Yeah, totally. Very cool.
but it had to change, right?
Yeah.
And that was the impetus of change, and it was so important. My daughter Leah is the biggest gift I was ever given, because it gave me an opportunity to start to step myself up, to change. And also, the beautiful thing is, it allowed me to step up as a masculine too. And even though I lived that wasn't necessarily the way that I was supposed to be, that was such an important experience for me, which is important to my spiritual growth, and important to me getting here right now, is
Sure.
finding the balance of the masculine and feminine.
Sure.
And through those experiences, and showing up as a masculine, as a supporter of being able to hold the ground and hold the space, and being able to take care of her mother, and then
Right.
take care of her, and being able to be a provider. So important, so important to
Right.
get understanding that perspective, and it was
Amazing.
beautiful.
Yeah, I never even put that together until just now. I did find it fascinating. I told you earlier that you began, her life began with you as her father, and then you're her mother. And you were like, well, no, I was actually always her mother. But but you experienced something in life that very few people get to experience, which is being a father and being a mother. And the reason it's hitting me now is because, wow, that is such a way to elevate your conscious, right? To have the experience, both of those experiences, right? Where I've only had the experience as a man, and that's the only thing I really want or know. But
Yeah.
like you've been able to do both. That must be really awakening, or not, that's not the word I'm looking at, but ascending, helping you to ascend to a certain level of consciousness.
Of course, like, that perspective was everything, because in essence, we are all both masculine
Yeah,
and feminine.
I believe that.
To be able to transcend, and being able to have a balance of both. And so, we'll talk about more later, but I do have, I have a massive miracle that I'm about to bring to the world. And obviously, I can't share this right now for another month or so, but it will all make sense to everybody, what
Yeah,
the next conversation that we have, understanding that balance of that masculine and the feminine. And that's also part of the connection to source that I have,
yeah,
greater beings. When we're non-physical beings, there's still masculine and feminine energies, and they're still balancing those energies. And we're,
absolutely.
especially within the different genders, to be able to master them in different perspectives, and then
Totally.
being in a more male perspective, and be able to balance your feminine with the masculine.
Yeah.
And this, as a female, it's so important to all of our growth. And
Yeah.
that's sort of the silly part is too, like, the people, the transgender people that are here right now, there's such a big resurgence too, because these are incredibly high vibrational beings here, being
Sure.
set to understand these incredible lessons.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's just so much hate at this point. It's so
Yeah.
sad.
Well, as I said, when I met you, there was such an authenticity. I didn't think anything until you told me, right? And I actually have a good friend of mine, Ricky Vitus, who's a makeup artist, special effects makeup artist, amazing, came into this world in a female body and transitioned to a man. I met him as a man. He's always been a guy to me. And he's a great guy. And I think, like you said, like, there's an elevated energy to his being because of his experience, and his experience of being able to be in a female body and be in a male body and be so certain of his own consciousness.
Yeah. And that self-love, it's a journey of self-love and finding
Amazing.
yourself. And that's, that journey in transitioning allowed me to find my own self-love.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
That
so
I want, yeah, that's what I want to talk about next, because that's what brought you to these intuitive abilities and all of these connections. I just do want to acknowledge Tim in the comments. Tim is one of my listeners who's been here since the beginning. He said something earlier when we were talking about time. I've been enjoying the conversation so much, so it was just became too late to bring it up. So I'm just going back. He says, in my opinion, it's not that time doesn't exist, as which it can be measured, tested, and replicated, and exists according to science, but rather our conception of time that may not exist. Now, this is a whole other show, Tim. You know that, and I do. My belief is that everything is happening all at once. Everything that's happened is happening. Everything that's going to happen is happening. It's all one big moment, but that's for another show. We'll save that.
yeah.
But I also want to mention that ringing in his ears. Here it is. He said, Tim says, my first child is transgendered. He hasn't completed the surgeries yet. So like you said, I believe there is this kind of resurgence of it. And I think that it's unfortunate that what we're shown in the media is such a diluted perspective of what it even means,
Yes.
to be trans, because, it's such a, to me, there's such a beautiful thing to it, a beautiful part to it spiritually, about the physical aspect of being a man and being a woman.
Yeah.
But also, like you said, the people who are actually doing it, not the people that the media shows us, are so much more enlightened to themselves and to love and to their inner person, and what that even means to touch your inner individuality that way.
Or at least they're given the option to, right?
Mhm.
Because we all have free will. So we set ourselves up in these paths to allow ourselves to have the option to find these things. Not everybody does. It's a
Mhm.
hard,
Mhm.
and
Mhm. Mhm.
a lot of people get caught in the 3D,
Yeah.
and they get caught in the hate, and they don't realize that there's a lot of like self negativity going on in here, which is then fueling all the exterior experiences
Mhm.
too.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and you seem to, when I look back at you sharing the whole experience over the last 5 years, you seemed at peace the whole time. You never seemed like, even as a man, like troubled, right? Like you were troubled as a man and you had to be a woman. You seemed at peace as a man, because you did say it was a struggle at the beginning to figure it out, but
Oh yeah.
you did figure it out.
Relatively quickly, but it was hard, and
Right.
hard to make that jump. But at that point, I was so ready for it. Like, and I bulleted through my transition because I knew who I was. There wasn't any question by the time I actually got there that I just knew. And then
Mhm.
I was just like full train, full speed ahead on this bullet train to be myself. And
Right.
then there, and you're like, I love myself. I love every single bit about this. And,
Right.
and then that's that authenticity. And then it's just living and breathing in that authenticity of yourself. And I know that, that's a big point for you too.
Yeah.
And that's important for everybody. That's a massive narrative for all of humanity, which
Right.
is, it also the reflection that there are so many more transgender people showing up right now.
Mhm.
It's so important for people to be able to grab a hold of their own authenticity, because this self-love and being in that balance of yourself, finding that soul path, the inner excitement which drives you there, that is the essence of authenticity. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, all
Totally.
what you think. And that's true in any situation, for
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
applicable in every person, every moment of every person's lives. And
What's interesting about that is that it's such a basic truth. It really is. I agree with you, but like we're almost taught the opposite, right? Like
oh,
society is constantly making us compare ourselves to others, and even to what we have and what we don't have, and things like that. Helen is spitting some wisdom. She says, what we are, how we choose to label ourselves, at least early on, is based upon comparing ourselves to others. As we interact more with more people, our perception of self can lead to new labels. And then she says, when we stop comparing, we are ourselves.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's so true. And I'm so happy to hear Helen say that. But it's true. It's like there are things in life that I realize, specifically comparison, specifically judgment, that when I was able to release those things, that self-love was what was filling the space, that I was letting go of those things, and self-love was coming in and filling those spaces.
Exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. So all of this transition, you finally felt like your authentic self, and
Yeah.
now some amazing things started happening. Take us through the whole.
Okay. So like, long story short with your, I started to then, I found my self-love and I started to put myself out there,
Mhm.
and I started to put myself out online. And at first it was just to sort of boost my confidence up a little bit and to connect with the community. And then like as I started to grow, I started to notice that I had an impact on other people and other trans people, other people in the community that were steps behind where I was.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I started to inspire people,
Mhm.
and people started messaging me and asking for advice. And at that point, like I wasn't even offering, but people just kept on asking things. And then I started having these incredible conversations. I met beautiful people, and I was always that person that was able to steer them in the right direction of their life. I
Mhm.
always knew what to say. When I was in the situation, it was just like something came over me. It was really just connected, the higher mind,
Sure.
spirit flow through me. I didn't quite understand the mechanism at that point, but
Mhm.
like it all started to flow through me, and everybody got what they needed. And I was always that person to bring people from that one little piece here. Wait, there, my balance. I use this in every session too. Our balance points over here, right?
Mhm.
We're in our negative spaces right here, and what we really want to do is balance ourselves out. So that everybody was like always here, and I
Mhm.
was always the one to like give them the offering to take them right over,
Nice.
past that threshold over to the positive. And it was just overwhelming, the beauty, the love, the appreciation that everybody had. And then it started like multiplying,
Yeah.
and I get more followers, and you started to get more people. And then it started to become where I had this just it was uncanny. It was just uncanny. And you're like, this is different. Like not everybody is getting that.
Well, it's interesting how like you started with what you were doing was putting yourself out there as a trans woman, and that community was responding to you. But it sounds very similar to the spiritual community when you put yourself out there, and people who are supposed to be receiving what you're saying are being inspired by you. You mentioned like there were people who were steps behind you, right? So in spirituality, there's people who are like, oh, I kind of get certain things, but they're looking to be inspired and looking for information from people who are maybe a little bit more have a little more understanding and experience.
Absolutely. And it's all synonymous, right? It's just whatever community. Everybody's still doing the same thing. Everybody's just trying to build their life. Whatever you want to call it, whatever umbrella you want to put it under,
Mhm.
it's the same thing, right? It's just people finding themselves and
Right.
finding their and guiding and finding their way through. And
Mhm.
so it works, if it's trans community, if it's any other community, if
Right.
it's that. It's supporting,
Totally.
and and that really fired me up, and that love there where like my heart chakra is on fire being able to help everybody.
Mhm.
And then like it was just like wild, and I just rolled with it, and I just put on at the bottom of my posts like, if anybody wants to talk, feel free to message me. And I just got such an overwhelming response that I was just busy for years. Like I was just like like chatting all the time, because I'm like, I'm gonna save the entire world. And I tried to help as many people as possible. So if somebody asked me a question and they needed help, I'd be right on it, because I'm like, well, I can help them out. And apparently they need some help.
Right.
So that led.
That's such a great realization when like you realize you're helping people out, you know. And even this show, like I just started it as like a talk thing with Jesse Blaze, and you know, I started to get contacted. Somebody was like, "Oh, you really affected me." And I was like, "What do you mean I affected you?" You know, like, what? What are you talking about? And it was just such an amazing response. And you know, you start to see your reflection in these things. You know, you start to see your reflection in other people and how it's happening. And Earth Angels light activations, I think that's Christina from last week. We are each playing out our own individual experience as the creator, how we choose to express that being. And that's what I'm always talking about. That's why I love metaphysical practitioners of all modalities, because I feel like everybody's just expressing their own connection to source through whatever that gift might be, you know, that channeling or that psychic medium intuitiveness, you know. I feel like it's all, like I said, expressions of a connection to whatever it is that it is them and their perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and I don't know what that means, Kelly. And maybe it's not Christina. I thought it was. Anyway, yeah. So now you've come into all of these realizations
Yeah.
about what you can do, and tell me where Dolores Cannon comes into the picture.
Okay, so that comes in a little bit later, but then, you know, first of all, that I had that experience that we talked about earlier,
Okay.
where I had, you know, source telling me that I was an angel sent to help.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, that sort of, I started digging into more of myself, and I understood that I was an earth angel. And that sort of like started getting me to understand myself more and my role in helping people and dig deeper into my spirituality. And then like I had my bottom surgery at that point. And that
Mm-hmm.
was my death. That was my real, that I had my first death and rebirth from when I started to chemically transition.
Mm-hmm.
A few years before that, that was like my beginning. But then the second part was really like my death and rebirth at that point. And because it took, I was in the hospital for about a week, and then I was out for about 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really had a chance to sort of let go of the old and really refresh in myself 100% at that point, and
Mm-hmm.
start to just, once I got out of that, I was just like, now I'm like really myself. Like, you know, there's always that dysphoria down there. No matter how much I love myself and I appreciated myself, there was still like something physically wrong there that I really wanted to take care of, and I did. And I did that and got my top surgery done at 3 months after I was, you know, done recovering. I did make a documentary about that on my YouTube. If anybody's interested.
Oh yeah, let me. You know, I always forget to put the banner up, but let me put up your website at the bottom there, where
Thank you.
people can. That's
Yep.
one way for people to find you.
Yes, but YouTube channel, if you look in Jessica Potak, you'll find that too.
Right.
So then from there, I launched my life, and I started digging into myself through, I found shamanism through my meditations, through my understanding. Spirit led me to it. And I started digging in, I started learning, and started just like connecting to everything, nature, every piece of everything. That's how I understood consciousness, grokking, which we were able to become anything. You become that thing, 99% of it, and then keep your 1% so you could go back to it. But you became consciousness of those things. You got to learn and understand perspectives. And so that really started to deepen myself. And you know, there's so many steps involved in all of our processes there. But eventually, like, I started to really grab a hold of my abilities and understanding my energy work and how I could influence and help people in the best way. And I started practicing, and I started, and it was very slow. It was, you know, clunky at first. You know, I opened my doors and you're like, all right, it's a client here and there. And like, but I started pushing for it. At the same time, I was also pushing, trying to work as an actress, as a model. And so I had a lot of things on my plate at that point. And it was exciting. It was fun. I met incredible people. I met spiritually minded people there. I met one of my best friends, Jackie, there, that I was able to connect with through those circumstances. And so it was just, you know, it was not directly on my path, but it led me to my path. And eventually, like, as I went further and further and putting myself out there and being that authentic version of myself and showing up in that spiritual way, I affected a lot of people. And, you know, I'd come on set and I'd rally everybody and I would send love to everybody. And we always had like the best times because like we all worked as a team. I brought everybody together and I, you know, it was part of everything. But my spiritual, I had a lot of spiritual leanings that I was just digging deep into all the time and my backbone. And it just continued to be like that. And eventually, like I started finding Dolores Cannon's books because on YouTube, on Instagram, there's a bunch of clips and you're like, wow, she's sort of got things like really right there. Like this woman, it like gets it.
Yeah.
And eventually, like I didn't realize that she was an author. And then I found out her books and you're like, I started with a convoluted universe and you're like, oh my God, this is everything. I have like the chills now. I'm like, this is everything I've been looking for. And I started going through books and books until I realized I was like, I want to learn how to do this. And then eventually, like, I learned that she had a school. And then Spirit came and they ended up popping up ads and leaning me towards this.
Oh, wow.
Eventually, like, I did it. And I took the plunge and I signed up for the school. And I did like a month's classes in like a week. I was like, once I was listening to it, I like completely binged it. Like somebody would like crack binge like Netflix.
Right.
Like that. It was like I wouldn't stop.
That's great though. Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, like if I have a good book, I'll gobble it down and like
sure, yeah.
But it was like that. I knew I was born to do this.
Right.
And it was like I understood the concepts. It flowed through me. It was just part of me. And I just knew like it was such an important part of my journey as I was doing that. And like I finished the course. I got 100 on the course.
Awesome.
And it was like, oh, that was simple. And now I'm like, I'm ready to go.
I love that. I you know, and I can feel it when you talk about it, and it's like I'm almost a little envious. Like I want that thing, and of course I have my own things, right? Where I get charged up, like you're getting charged up.
Yeah.
But that's authenticity, right? That's when you know this is the thing that makes me smile, right? Yes. And so like like you said, you were in a band, right? For me, I played 5 nights a week with my best friend. After work, I'd go to his house. We'd play in the basement. And I never even knew until years later what I understood what channeling was, that's what I was doing, right? I was so in the moment before I even knew what being in the moment was. And it's like, man, you wish you could go back. And you do, you know, I just started playing again with a couple of people. And it's well,
let's jam.
It's being in the moment, you know. It's really an awesome feeling, being able to let go. And you know, it's like it's interesting because like right now we're in the moment, we're having this conversation and we're exchanging energy and it's all great. But like when I talk about playing bass and I think about it, it's like that's a whole different set of energy and frequency and still being in the moment. It's just a different moment.
It is, but there is still a likeness involved with that, and in that connection with other people and bridging all things, right? We're in our highest excitement. And excitement, well, I always have to throw my excitement thing out there because it's the most important lesson that everybody needs to understand about their lives. Your excitement is your higher mind speaking to you in every moment of your entire life. I run my entire life every second based on my excitement because your higher mind knows what you should be doing. It plans out your life. Yeah. Whereas most people think your conscious mind should be doing that, and they put so much stress and pressure on it. It doesn't, though. And in every moment, say in an easy day, what are you going to do? Take a walk, read a book. Maybe you will, you know, open up a magazine. It doesn't matter. Whatever one of those things that you feel more drawn to, that's what you should be doing.
Right.
That's
totally.
And your excitement, your exuberance, that loving energy. And it, you know, there's different levels of it, but it's what of those options has that excitement, and just go towards it. And it literally guides you to do everything in your life. It opens up a complete toolkit for abundance, for serendipity to flow into your life, and for miracles to happen all the time, every day of your life. I live miracles all the time. My life is just consistent miracles. It's because I follow my excitement. And you're the most authentic to yourself when you are following your higher mind, and because you're in complete alignment with yourself. And
Right.
even if it brings you and steers you to places that you may not prefer, it gives you that option. So you're always following your excitement without any insistence on the outcome. It's so important to have that part.
Mhm.
Zero insistence, because we're not supposed to understand where it leads us. We just need to follow the path, do what we feel that we need to until our excitement leads us to something else, and just go
Right.
there.
Right.
And then,
I love that's an important part, to release expectations, right? No expectations,
yes,
just pure like follow, just pure follow.
that's right. And
Yeah.
it will to everything. You don't necessarily have to think about it. It all comes to you at that point.
Yeah.
It literally like serves you things on a silver platter. And obviously there are a lot of instances where your excitement will lead you to negative circumstances too.
Right.
Yeah. But these are circumstances that will allow us to learn. And
Right.
again, let us see what we prefer and what we don't prefer.
Absolutely.
Super important though.
You know, it's funny, you just made me think of a couple of people that I know in my life that do that. They absolutely follow their excitement. They are such happy people and really energetic. You could feel their energy when you're around them.
Yeah.
But they're not even spiritual in the slightest. Like,
You don't,
not the way that we talk about it, right? But like, it's their own connection to their spirituality that allows them to be so free.
yes. And
Mhm.
you don't have to necessarily identify it. You just have to be in that energy.
That's it. That's totally it. Right.
You know, the higher minds repeat this constantly to me in all the sessions. Like it's a baseline of understanding, because sometimes we're not meant to understand. Some people come in with questions and they won't give it to them, because it would diminish what they need to learn to get there. And
Right.
as long as they follow their excitement, it will lead them in the right direction. Not only that, you see other people like Bashar, like he's hell bent on that. And
Right.
you know, or I think that's a negative connotation, but yeah, he's
No, it's totally not. And I love the fact that more I can say Bashar in public, and more people will be like, huh? Oh, I've heard that. I know who that is. You know what I mean? I'm amazed, and because he's, to me, Bashar he represents something to me that if I look at myself 10 years ago and I talk about the Galactic Federation or something, I would be like, what the hell are you talking about? You know what I mean? And Bashar, I mean, he talks, he gets out there,
yeah.
and people listen, and people don't think it's so odd, which is, I love
Well,
that.
if you're the frequency that aligns to that, then you'll get the information.
Right.
You know, you always get exactly what you need.
Right.
And that's the cool part. The universe sets it up, your guide set up, so you always get your needs. So if you're in that vibration to receive it, then you're going to find his wisdom and find the information one way or another. And I've validated pretty much everything he said. And I've checked also with the higher minds to make sure he's legit. And they love him. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Such great things to say about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. I want to share this real quick. Two things. I have your website up here, so just
Oh,
people
yeah.
can see that great picture of you and some things. And this will also bring me into this, what I said earlier, QHHT. I called it Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, or what does it stand for, and what is it?
Hypnosis technique. That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us what that is.
Okay. But we don't need the window now.
Well, actually, I do need the window, because I also wanted to just surprise any of my guests who might not have even thought about this. And I just want to bring up your before and after picture.
Oh my God.
And I know I spoke to you, so I know this is okay.
Yeah.
But I want people to see. I just want people to see what I saw. You know, the two different beings, or the two different aspects of a being, you know, that are just so completely different, and the energy, like you said, the energy is even very different.
Oh yeah.
So I just wanted to share that with my audience, and now we can yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I'll even give you the spotlight here. How about that?
ooh, okay. QHHT. So QHHT was found by Dolores Cannon over 40 years ago, and now she's not with us, and let us honor her soul. She discovered being able to connect to other parallel lifetimes. And she was really a trailblazer. She was really one to use this technique as a way to understand information. She always called herself the reporter. And QHHT is amazing because what we do in the sessions, well, my sessions are a little bit different because I add in a whole aspect of giving some guidance and also like helping people with a full psychological understanding of what's going on with their life. We give a full breakdown. I clear out their energy first. When people come in for a session with me, it's a full day. So we're running like 8 hours. Like sometimes we're running 2 hours. I even have one 12-hour session.
Wow.
Because everybody gets what they need.
It's very intense, yeah.
And everybody, people are just enthralled because I'm here to listen. I'm opening them up. We're in a spot where we can be vulnerable with each other. And it's a safe space. It's a beautiful space to open people up. And so just time flies by. And, there's a lot of concepts I like to instill with people. And we have a very high success rate with being able to get people into a new place in their life. I guarantee a shift in people's life. And it always happens in one way or another. So in QHHT is incredible. So it's a form of hypnosis, and it's a deeper hypnosis. So we work in the theta state. So our theta state is a natural brainwave state, because some people are a little freaked out about hypnosis and they think it's a weird guy with a watch. But this is, you're getting very sleepy. Not like any of that garbage. And those are even lower level hypnosis. So we work in a deep level. So we're able to get farther down. So we work in the theta state. Now you're naturally in the theta state twice a day. So when you first wake up, you're in that theta state. And right before you're about to go to sleep, you're also in the theta state. The theta state in your brainwave, your brainwaves dictate where your soul can be. It's sort of like a portal. So when we're in the theta state, it sort of cracks open the portal from the physical reality and opening up to the spiritual realm. And it's a very quick transition from that theta state to that deep theta state, or processing through the theta state to the full sleep state. And at the full sleep state, then your soul is basically leaving the body at that point. And you're connected by silver thread. But like the beautiful thing about the theta state is like we shove our foot in the door and we keep people in there. And while we have that foot in the door, we have access to that person's higher mind. And the higher mind is the greater version of ourselves. The higher mind, also the one that we get our excitement from, is the one that is projecting our reality. So we are the physical projection of our higher mind, and we can connect to it directly. Not only that, the beautiful thing is, I use this as an incredible tool, is that it's sort of like a terminal that once you have somebody open to there, you can literally connect to any being in all of eternity through all time. You can connect. I've brought people to God before and brought people to Source. It's a very moving and beautiful, beautiful situation. And, there's so many beautiful things, but extraterrestrials, archangels, there are all these different beings you can connect to. But in standard, we just go to the higher mind. And, everybody up there is interconnected anyway. So, you could ask a question to your higher mind and it may thread out into all these different. Now, when we're in this state, we first start off and we do a past life regression. It's actually a parallel life regression because all things happen in a singularity and they're all threaded out. So only,
there's a quick question. Yeah, is this the theta state where one can choose to lucid dream as well?
No. The theta state, so you could actually access as a shaman and being able to explore these states before I was getting into QHHT, and I was well versed in exploring the upper and the lower astral because I've traveled there. You can get there by yourself. You could work in a box breath and do guided meditation and get into a theta state and then travel. Lucid dreaming is different. Lucid dreaming is you are already separated at that point. There's just an awareness. And then that awareness just allows you to open up your consciousness to view it in a broader perspective. And so it's not just that narrow perspective of you being in that reality.
I gotcha.
But yeah, so in the theta state, we start to connect to the parallel lifetimes because all things happen in a singularity. Every moment is the eternal now. It's infinite, it's timeless, it will go on forever. It's part of who we are, but it's always in the now. And so we thread out to different circumstances. And this changes all the time, because as you change yourself in the present, you actually thread to different versions of your past. So everything is a threading. And so I access the threading of all space and time. Now, in this space, you were first able to connect to these parallel lifetimes. And the parallel lifetimes are incredibly beautiful because your higher mind knows where to send us, because we have hundreds and hundreds of parallel lifetimes that we're threaded to. Now, we could have experienced more based on our like reincarnational cycles, but we're only threaded to the specific ones that give us the attributes that we need for each lifetime. When we choose who we are, we choose who we're going to be born into, we choose our strives, we choose our obstacles, we choose what we're good at. And in all of these things, we need energetic backing. We need to create the background programming for who we are. We need to fill it with some substance. And we do that by connecting it to all these other lifetimes. Now, also, there's influence from your lifetime and their lifetime going on at once, and there's feedback on all. It goes very deep, but I won't go that deep into it. But
well, I do have a question about that, because I did have an experience where the idea of being threaded to another existence, and even you said a past existence or a future existence, but what I'm thinking of is an experience that I had with not myself, but my father, right? So my father's passed away, and there was a moment I was thinking or meditating or doing something where I felt like I came to some sort of realization, or dealt with something that felt healing, right? I was like, wow, I just healed something between me and my father. But at that same moment, I felt my father heal.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Because you know, what's interesting is because what you did by healing and reperceiving that, you imagine this like a telephone switchboard operator. You unplugged yourself from an old past and you plugged yourself into a new alternate past. And we're all doing this. When we get over trauma and we give acceptance, then we're actually changing the past that we're connected to. So it's threaded to a different one, to a one where you've given that acceptance. And because you've connected that too, then there may be additional threadings that connect to other people too. So there are, like you could say, energetic effects that can happen to other beings. And I see this now too, as like I'm working with people, and where like sometimes there's situations that pop up, and now I've learned how to completely recreate their past as we're going through the past life regressions or the parallel life regressions. And we'll create a new timeline for them, which is really just a chosen one, because all of them exist. You're just really just pinpointing the one that, and then you're just finding that and connecting it. But I'm just saying it because I'm thinking up of these different situations to figure out what would be best to give them the energetic attributes that would not allow those situations to continue to thread into this current existence. So now this is incredible though, because we're able to go into all these different times, and you're able to first explore, right? The people who are in QHHT are actually, you know, it was years ago that they were somnambulistic. So they were really like out, you know, like out. But now, because everybody's vibration is so high and everybody's changed so much, that most people have a pretty clear like understanding. They're like right there viewing it. So you get a front seat to understand these past lifetimes, to understand and see these situations and circumstances. And some of them are wild. I mean, some of them there was one person, they were a wizard, and they were able to evolve creatures with their mind, all things that we can do. They ended up like 1700 years. They ended up evolving to a new point within their life at like 500 years. And then they couldn't control the evolutionary energy, and it shot out energy to the bottom of the ocean, evolved some reptiles, which turned into a dragon-like creature. It started terrorizing things, and eventually it became like their best friend. And just like, and like they eventually they went through wars with the dragon, become best friends, and eventually they like separated ways, and the dragon was so upset they had a cry out, and like it fell of negativity on the temple, and then they had to finally retire, and then they finally met their soulmate at like 1200 years. Lived 100 years. You see crazy stuff like that. People who are just energy, balls of energy, creation energy, people who were creating planets and creating solar systems, galaxies, new different like levels of reality that we can't comprehend. Sometimes people just need to experience happy things, right? Sometimes it's not to understand like what's going wrong, but sometimes they're in such a bad spot that they just need to experience something happy. Where like I've seen lifetimes where they were just a glowing orb and it was just fun. There was just like nothing wrong.
It was just happiness in its essence.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They just shot around with their friends and they played in their orb-like way, and they played games, and it was like the cusp on fifth dimensional. So it was just like when you're just getting into that fifth dimensional or fifth vibration. And it's just like really cool events like that. I've had people that like their biggest trauma, they were so full of fear. Why were they so full of fear of everything? Because they were there at the burning of Atlantis. Literally, they were like where 95% of the population was destroyed at that point. Or sitting there watching the entire everything burn. Everybody that they ever knew died. So situation was so traumatizing, it carried through. Now
I was going to say, talk about generational trauma.
yeah. What's interesting is also these events that happen in these parallel lifetimes. As I mentioned about the pulsing of the cells, there is genetic memory of those past lifetimes, of all the lifetimes that we will ever occur in a psychic type of ethereal type of connection. So it's actually built into us, which is also more mind-blowing stuff. It gets so deep. But yeah, so like the cool situation is you're able to find that situation, and then I'm able to cut the threads. We're able to cut the energetic connections, and then I amend them to more positive timelines. Now, by doing that, okay, that was the source of the fear. Right. Clip it. Let's cut the situations that are involved with that, and let's now amend to positive, more supporting timelines. And then what happens is then because you've cut the energetic influence, then it fades away, and then these issues that people have that are horrible, that are debilitating to their life and sometimes causing mass physical effects, they can just vaporize. And you see, and that's just the beginning of the healing with it too. Amazing. So there's all these incredible lifetimes that you can go through. You can understand these things. Some of them are traumatic, some of them are absolutely awful, but some of them are not. And the cool thing is that as an experienced guide with this, that I can make it so people are always comfortable no matter what's going on. But things, if you create a vow in another lifetime, like that vow will continue until you cut it. So I'm always looking for vows because those vows really screw stuff up. Oh, why can't I hold on to any money? And it's, a few lifetimes ago, you're a monk and you decided to give all your money away and you didn't have any possessions. So that holds. Romantic stuff, it happens too. Or like, I'm gonna get that guy. I'm gonna murder him for, I vow I'll murder this guy. And then like, there's that hatred in their life. They're like, why do I have this hatred? Well, let's clip it. Let's find it. Find the root of that problem, clip it, give them. And then because I've given them the understanding of how to deal with the situation emotionally and psychologically, you have both those parts. So you deal with it in the psychological way, and then you deal with it the spiritual way. You have balance. And that's how you clear it out. Because what happens is a lot of people will just try and deal with it spiritually, but then you need the psychological aspect. Whereas in the 3D, you only work psychologically, and they have no idea that it could have been another timeline. So this is why we do such incredible things. So now it gets even more. Oh, wait, one more cool thing about this is that most every lifetime, we're able to go through a death sequence. And the beauty about this is, first of all, you're able to dismiss the hell theory. because it's false, because hell doesn't exist. But it has been taught to people. Been given people. It's given to people as an option of fear. And if you believe it that thoroughly, you will have that as an overlay before you go through the astrals, your, to the different astral levels, until you realize you don't need to be there anymore. So some people will pop up into like a hell reality, and then until they just realize and they snap out of it, and they're like, oh, okay. And so
I made this myself with my own thoughts. Yeah.
Right, exactly. We create everything. Or if you think you're going to die and then meet, 70 virgins, or if you're going to go to heaven in this cloud-like space, which is astral, it's very convoluted, then you'll see that's what you're going to believe, and you'll see that. But it's going to fade, and then you're going to go through the normal cycles eventually. So, all right. So after that, the cooler part is then we connect with the higher mind directly. So with the higher mind directly, we are able to then literally have a conversation. We open up the higher mind, and I talk to the person's higher mind directly, the one that is basically projecting your physical being into this 3D reality. They're the ones that are overlooking you or that person that entire lifetime, and they're the ones giving them the guidance. So they've, for a long time, like most people ignore what the higher mind is saying. They're so focused on the 3D that it's hard to open up. Even people, spiritual people, it's hard to grab a hold of it because the 3D has such a tough hold on everybody. But it's a clear channel in communication. And because I also did a very clear and thorough job at that point of opening people up, and then opening people's third eye, because I also, in the upper astral, I also learned through QHHT that I worked in the Temple of Healing. When we die, there's a time that we need to shed the negative energy from that lifetime. People go to the Temple of Healing to clear that energy. Now they work in beings in physical and non-physical nature. And so I apparently worked there at one point. And I found QHHT. This Temple of Healing is also connected to the library, which most people would call the Akashic Records, and also the Tapestry Room. And the Tapestry Room contains a massive tapestry, hundreds of feet tall and miles long, where every single one of our lifetimes is woven into a rope. And these ropes are constantly shifting and morphing in all these colors that you could never even imagine. It's incredibly beautiful. Wow. And they're all intertwined together every single lifetime. It's absolutely incredible. So I found out through the Temple of Healing that I worked there, and they schooled me. They taught me how to use the tools, and now I use these energetic orbs. And so I work hand in hand with the higher mind. When we're talking with the higher minds, we first of all can get wisdom. We can get true understanding. Sometimes the higher mind's like, oh, thank goodness, I've been trying to tell them this for 20 years. And finally let loose and say exactly what they need to say. Right. But at that point too, we're probably talking for 5 hours, and the higher mind connects directly to me. I channel their higher mind in the session. So most of the time we've actually cleared a lot of space, right? We already worked through a lot of things, a lot of understanding through the higher mind, because the higher mind works directly with me. Right. So in that space, it's so cool. You can ask anything. And one of the beautiful things about this is, after we did the jobs of cutting connections to the timelines, we can see if there's any other energetic connections. We can continue to open up and cut timelines too. Rethread, which is those threads in the temple. That's what we're actually connecting. Threadings in the temple. But we can clear energetic influence in the body. I give a full telepathic connection with the higher mind, so I work in unison with them. This is my ability, that I'm able to work directly in unison with the higher minds. They call me wings on the ground. And because we do incredible things. I use a variety of different energetic orbs, and I just think of the color, and they sort of drop into my hands, and I'm able to insert it into the person and they sort of guide how this is going to move. But we're able to cure almost anything. Just like the things that the doctors have, they couldn't even imagine, like autoimmune diseases and things that are like, oh, there's no cure for this, or sciatica and nervous.
I was going to say, so even physical symptoms you can.
Oh, very much so, very much so, all the time. Everything. You know, PCOS is very common. We cure all that. Like Hashimoto's, we did. Literally, like I have a huge list. Like most of the things out there, I've been able to cure.
Wow.
And it's absolutely incredible. It's because this is just a dream. And as long as that person doesn't have anything to learn, and they've already absorbed everything they needed to at that point, and
Mhm.
it's brought them on the path they needed to, the people that they needed to meet because of that, they've learned their lessons, we can let it go. And it's so beautiful. I mean, you know, people that were having problems walking were able to clear that. Mental issues where I've been able to reforge connections in neurons in the brain, and people who are like schizophrenic, we were able
Mhm.
to these things. You know, bipolar, we're able to change people's brains like that. I had a patient the other day which one of their lobes was almost like dead from a car accident. We rejuvenated the lobe. Now this was a cool one because I found out a way that I can take the patient in that space, and I pull us into a higher timeline. And so we actually pulled them into a timeline where that accident never existed. And then that brain actually had to then come back online because it never had that damage to begin
Right,
with.
right, right.
It was like really cool because when I saw it, it like started to glow because it was just like it was like coming back online.
Wow.
Sometimes blocks with people and energetic blocks because you're able to completely go to and thread them to a completely different timeline that just it never existed. So there's no block. So
Right, right.
I come up with these incredibly wild ways to be able to manipulate and sort of work through and be able to help people in a therapeutic use like this with with a guidance of the higher minds. We work as an incredible team, and it's astounding, it's beautiful. I see such changes with people, and
Mm.
that's why I've dedicated my life to this,
Yeah.
because it's so profound that you see like the things that doctors are doing. They think they're just like masking symptoms. They laugh about it all the time. They
Mhm.
literally laughing at what the doctors do. Now what's
Mm.
also crazy is that a lot of times that, like the surgeries and things that we do, they make it work up there. It's just our belief that it works, and they're like, all right, well, we'll let it go, we'll let it move through. Now, I can also work on any person on the planet or that has ever existed. I can adjust any timeline or any threading. I kept my,
Wow.
because of shamanism, I found my unlimitedness. And I know that there is anything is possible, right? And I've understood my God self and understood that I have the power of source because I am source, just like you are.
Mhm,
And so
mhm,
that we do basically anything. And
mhm.
because I'm working in unconditional love to help people and bring people together and bring people to a new place. Yes, if you can imagine it, it can be done. Exactly. But
Mm,
it's that knowing. It's that absolute steadfast
mm.
knowing it works and down to your core without having like a iota of any doubt in there. That's what
Right.
makes it work. And it
Right.
also be the other person. I can't heal anybody, honestly. It's I allow the vibration. I'm giving you the vibration of being healed.
I love when people say that. Yeah, I love when people say, "I'm not healing you. I'm helping you heal yourself."
Yeah,
I really love that.
it's
And
true. I'm offering the vibration, and whereas I'm giving, the highest vibration that almost anybody on the planet can give, they still have to take it.
right.
Now, what's cool is that I like work on them and their family too, because
Right.
the people around you are also affecting you also. So then
Sure.
we're able to affect people, and we're able to rewrite their timelines, cut their negative threads, work on their physical issues. So when people come down, I say, all right, just write a list. Who needs to be healed? We're going to cure them all, or at least give them the option for it.
Right.
And
Right.
sometimes I ask, should we tell them? And they're like, nah, they'll never believe it.
I gotta say, I love how passionate you are about what you do. And it's like it's more than that. I feel like it's not just what you do. It's the way that it helps people too. And again, for me, that's my favorite type of person who, again, I'm going to use the word healer, even though you're not healing them. You facilitate healing, right? basically. So we could call you a healer. It still makes sense. But I just love that. And those are the people. It's unfortunate that the world of healers is, there are charlatans out there who are preying on people's, need to be healed. But again, that's why I love bringing people like you to the show, who are so authentic, and just, I feel healed just having spoken to you for the last hour and a half. And you promised me, you said you're going to go overtime, and we certainly did. I saw Helen was going to bed. She said, thank you for the information. Good night. It's time for bed. So I'm going to start wrapping it up, but I definitely, you even said you'd love to come back. I am definitely going to have you back. You're amazing to talk to, full of knowledge. We barely even touched on the quantum healing stuff.
So much, like, I have such a wealth of experiences through this, because this is my job. I stopped everything else in my life and focused on this because it's so beautiful, and there's so much understanding involved there. And this is what I'm going to bring to the world too, and that authenticity and that unconditional love, which is so important to everybody else, to just to be there, be kind for everybody. I found also through sessions that I had a very close connection with Yeshua, and through that, I understood that what I'm doing through these sessions is exactly what happened as I was working with Yeshua in that prior lifetime. I'm not going to disclose that at this point of time exactly who I was, but like, that energy helps me move through and offer that unconditional love, just like Yeshua did, and to live as a prime and living example of somebody that is authentic and just giving and helping and just loving everybody else just for that. And that is an offering in itself of that authenticity of living in your most authentic, loving self.
It. And if we all did that, imagine.
Yes, absolutely. It's contagious. You live in a higher vibration. Say somebody's living in fear and negativity, and then somebody's living in unconditional love, like the space that I'm in. It overcomes millions of people who are in fear. That is an exponential curve of going upwards, and it's so powerful.
I love it.
Influence people. It's like a lock and key mechanism. We open people up to all these incredible new opportunities and experiences for them, to give them the opportunity to open themselves up, and then allow healing for themselves too.
Totally. Well, I'm just so grateful to have found a new friend. You're really amazing. I want to hook you up with Tim. Tim is also amazing. He's been with me since the beginning, but he says, if it's actually true you can cure PCOS, I'll have to send my transgendered kid your way. Being that now he's a man dealing medically with women's conditions. So a perfect person to work with for you.
I want to wrap up with one of my miracles too.
Let's do it.
Got a minute here. Okay, first of all, PCOS, it's so common, it's wild. We've cured this multiple times before. It's actually very surprising how often it is. It pops up, but yes, we can totally take care of that. We can take care of almost any physical issue. Like on my card, I literally put, we can heal almost any physical issue. Because there is that opportunity for that. If that person is actually ready for that, and they're ready to not only do the work and be able to understand the negative influences of their life psychologically, and then allow it, right? And allow that energy to move through themselves. I give a complete toolkit to be able to allow people to do that. So not only that, so one of my miracles that I've done for myself is through the Temple of Healing with one of my friends, I was able to create myself an energetic ovary. Now, I wanted to be able to be free from taking pharmaceuticals, not be reliant on the pharmaceutical company. I take estrogen shots and I take progesterone. And so I wanted to free myself of that. So because we've been creating things with stem cells in the body, we've been rebuilding people's knees and eyes and all these other things that, we've regrown hair, and, we've healed scars that you could never imagine, regrown parts of people's hearts, and like this wild stuff. So I'm like, I want to grow an ovary. I'm like, I know I could do this. And we did. I actually have a documentary on that too. I don't know if I released that too, but that's good. That's like a huge miracle too. I created an energetic ovary for myself. And now I have my levels. I've tested my estrogen and progesterone levels for years. They were pinned at 250. And then after I created the ovary, my estrogen levels were at 400
Wow.
so it's working. And so
Amazing.
different pieces of the body, which is I've created a ball of energy. So that it will sort of segue up into a big miracle that I'm going to give to the entire world of that offering of love, unconditional love, and bringing people together to embrace each other and not fight each other and to dismiss the fear and be able to start thinking a little bit more freely.
Awesome. Awesome. I can't wait to talk about that the next time I have you back. More details and information. And you said it to me earlier. You said I'd asked you if you were thinking about doing a show because you do have such a great personality and so much knowledge to share, and you said things are going to change so fast. I can't commit to that, and I agree. I think we're at such an amazing moment in humanity, right? I can't even say moment in time if time doesn't exist, but we're at an amazing moment for humanity right now.
It does in our perspective, but in the greater
right, of course, but we're at an amazing moment of perception. Even, I mean, that's really where we're at, I think, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
So very cool. I can't wait to have you back. I'm going to put you in the green room, but don't go away because I want to talk to you.
Okay.
I definitely want to work with you and have one of these sessions and figure out how we can make that happen, because yeah, I already know just from talking to you, how it's going to go. And I've had a lot of resistance I've worked with hypnotists who I'm close with and have had hard times with hypnosis, and I somehow feel like I won't with you. I feel like you have some insight into how to make people understand how to get into that state that you were talking about. So I'm excited about that. Do you have any that was words of wisdom. I usually ask for some words of wisdom, but maybe like a short little blast of love or happiness or anything from my audience before I put you in the green room.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to spread this incredible love to you and to everybody else that's listening. I've dedicated myself to bringing this love to the world. And I hope that everybody else just understands that their frequency, who you are, literally creates your reality. And the reality that I live is a beautiful reality because I live in a place where I've vetted so many of my traumas, much of my negativity. We're even in a day where even today I was a little bit beaten down. This is my beaten down day. And I still found incredible people. I still just randomly bump into wonderful people and have amazing conversation. And it's so bright. And you're able to be like this lighthouse for people. And just remember that when you are in a dark space, just first of all, just embrace that, be able to just move through it, but understand that it won't be forever and find that light. And then once you find that light, move your frequency up and you stay there as much as possible, you will see that your reality reflects that. And everybody that comes to me usually sees that too. That once you're able to change your frequency and bring it to that greater space, that your reality becomes incredibly beautiful. And even the negative circumstances in your life, because you understand what they're for and that they're messages from the universe to give you understanding that they're just like bumpers to sort of get you in the right direction. So you love them too. It's the unconditional love for all things in your life.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We're definitely gonna have you back. I can't. I feel bad even putting you in the green room, but I got to say good night to people here on the East Coast. At least it's getting late, but we'll talk again, and we'll have you back again. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness, guys, that was amazing. I don't know if you feel as energized as I do, as enlightened as I do, but I feel really good, and I love that exactly what Jess said. Is you create your own reality with your thoughts, and even though I know that wholeheartedly, I still have my tough days, right? My circumstances I'm still working on raising myself up into better things all the time. And that's because I know that they're getting better all the time because of my thoughts and because of my belief in who I am and in what I'm doing, and that there are better things. And as I grow, again, I meet incredible people like Jess and have these great conversations, and people like Ninja Kitty, who's been here since the beginning, telling me an amazing show. That's just such a validation. Awesome episode. Tim also, since the beginning, community, love. I love that. Thank you guys so much. I do believe that next week I'm having a special guest. My longtime viewers know and love him. Jesse Blaze Snyder is going to be here with me. He's got some great announcements. He's got some great projects going on, and he's going to be promoting that stuff. And Christina, thank you for being here tonight as well. I love her energy and the work that she's doing. Yeah, amazing. It's so good. I love that the live stream of consciousness, I think Jessica was saying it earlier, like she can't imagine me having this a person with negative vibes on the show. I've created a collection of amazing high vibrational conversations that if you liked what you saw and you're here for the first time, you could go to the YouTube channel and binge and just fill yourself up with amazing conversations with amazing people, knowledge that you may never have heard, knowledge that you may have heard and get to hear more, whatever it might be. Check it out and come back next week. I really do love you guys. Christina says, thank you, Jessica, for having the passion that you do, bringing the work that is helping people in such great ways right now. Yay. I'm sure she's super happy to hear that. Ninja Kitty says, yes. Awesome. I'm excited. I've committed myself to being here every Thursday, and I have been, and it has not let me down, and you guys haven't let me down. So thanks for being here. I will talk to you guys next week. Peace.